Where Grid has gotten really exciting for me is in how I build my components. So I will have standard components, and my hope is that when the designer creates their mockup files, that they actually drop things onto the grid. It makes my life so much easier. Whether you're using Sketch or Illustrator or Photoshop or any other app that you might use to mock up designs, my hope is that you actually put it on a grid as a designer. And that way I can just very quickly start dropping things into place. And the way that I do it is now, if you offer up a 12-column grid, in this case 12 columns, then I would create a 12-column grid in code. And that way they are exactly the same. I don't have to worry about it. Whatever your gap is, I set that, and then I set up the columns, and I try to generalize. So I'll start with a half and half layout and then try to reposition objects on the grid instead of using something like padding to push this over a column and a gap. So over in Firefox, I've done exactly that. I have this layout and it is that exact same grid. Thankfully, Firefox has some really cool tools for visualizing grids. And you can see that I have generalized the grid. So there are 6 A's and 6 B's. It's a half and half layout. And then from there, and this is so that I can reuse the grid. I can just go and drop these classes on a different component, and I immediately see the layout take shape. From there, on specialized components, I will add a change. I'll alter the grid by changing the grid area just for that component or just for this image, right? Span 4. So over here, the same code, you can see I've added my grid, right? And I've called it 2-column 1 by 1. And then of course the callout and the image, and it is exactly like that. So I have this generalization. The grid just turns on the grid. And then from there, grid gaps, repeat 12, 6 of them are A, 6 of them are B. And as we go down, we'll see that I've prefixed and added grid area to change it to make alterations, account for the anomalies. And again with the image. And when you take these, I can take a screen cap of this layout and a screen cap of the sketch file and put them one on top of the other, and they line up beautifully. So this is my new favorite way, and for the longest time, every tutorial I've seen usually does a 2-dimensional grid, but my favorite way to do it is in a single dimension just like this, and stack them on top of each other. Makes my life so much easier in terms of developing web apps or marketing sites or stuff like that. And I can quickly get to work and reuse the code. Makes my maintenance way easier. So whatever you get in design, if it's 12 columns, if it's 16, if it's something completely unique because they art directed it, just create that same thing in code. It'll actually be easier for you to code it than it will be for them to set it up.